In a peaceful countryside, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city, there lived a farmer named Samuel. He was a kind-hearted man, with a love for both his land and the animals that roamed it. Samuel owned a modest farm that sprawled over several acres, complete with lush green fields and a charming little barn where he housed his animals. From the moment the sun peeked over the horizon, Samuel was up and busy tending to his daily chores. Each morning, he would start by milking the cows. The rhythmic sound of gentle mooing filled the air as he approached them, his soft voice reassuring the cows as he moved from one to the next. Samuel always made sure to give each cow a scratch behind the ears before getting to work. He believed that kindness helped milk flow better. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more. And tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. After milking, he would head to the chicken coop, where bright yellow chicks peeped excitedly at his arrival. He tossed feed into their pen while enjoying their cheerful chatter. Once breakfast was done, Samuel would take a stroll around his farm to greet all his other animals. There were playful goats that nibbled at his clothes and fluffy sheep that bleated happily in response to his calls. Each one had its own unique personality, and Samuel cherished each connection he made with them. He often spoke to them as if they could understand every word. In his eyes, they were not just animals. They were family. As he walked through his fields, the vibrant colors of wildflowers danced in the gentle breeze. Samuel felt at peace surrounded by nature's beauty. He would often pause to watch the butterflies flit from flower to flower or listen to the birds singing sweet melodies from treetops above. It was an idyllic life for him, one filled with simplicity and joy. Samuel's love for nature extended beyond just his farm. He had a deep respect for all living beings and believed that every creature had a role in this delicate web of life. On weekends, he volunteered at the local wildlife rescue center, helping injured animals and learning more about their habitats and needs. This commitment only strengthened his bond with nature, and he often thought about how humans could do better to protect it. One sunny afternoon, after finishing his chores, Samuel decided to take a break on his porch with a glass of freshly squeezed lemonade. As he relaxed, he admired the rolling hills that surrounded his property, fields of golden wheat swaying in unison like waves in an ocean. The tranquility of the moment enveloped him, and he indulged in daydreams of expanding his farm one day. However, little did Samuel know that his peaceful routine was about to change forever. As he sat sipping lemonade, an unusual sound caught his attention, a faint whimper coming from inside the barn. It was not uncommon for animals to make noise while playing or during feeding time, but this sounded different. Intrigued and slightly concerned, Samuel set down his glass and walked towards the barn. The old wooden door creaked as he pushed it open, revealing shadows dancing along hay bales stacked high against the walls. The light filtered in through cracks in the wood, illuminating specks of dust floating through the air, like tiny stars in a dimly lit room. As he stepped inside, the whimpering grew louder. "Hello? Is anyone there?" He called gently, scanning the barn for any sign of trouble. At first glance, everything seemed normal. His animals were all accounted for and happily lounging around. But that sound persisted. Following the noise, Samuel moved closer to a pile of hay in one corner of the barn. He knelt down and began to sift through the dried grass when suddenly he stopped dead in his tracks. There, nestled among the hay, was something small and golden brown, a tiny lion cub. Its large eyes blinked up at him with uncertainty. At that moment, Samuel's heart raced. Shock coursed through him like electricity. What on earth is this little one doing here? He murmured softly as he reached out a hand cautiously toward it. The cub curled up tighter in fear, but eventually leaned forward slightly, as if sensing Samuel's gentle spirit. It let out another soft whimper that tugged at Samuel's heartstrings even more deeply. He carefully picked up the cub, cradling it in his arms as it began to calm down. As he held this rare creature close, Samuel couldn't help but marvel at its thick fur and adorable features, a stark contrast to everything else on his farm, but somehow just as precious. Little did he know that this unexpected discovery would lead him on an unexpected journey into mystery and wonder, a journey that would change everything he knew about animals and their families forever. Samuel stood in the dim light of the barn, clutching the lion cub close to his chest. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and bewilderment as he gazed at the tiny creature nestled in his arms. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, and yet it felt so right to hold it. The cub was soft and warm, its golden fur glimmering under the shafts of sunlight, filtering through the barn's worn wooden beams. But how did it get here? That question echoed in Samuel's mind. He gently set the cub down on a patch of hay, watching as it wobbled slightly on its tiny paws, its big eyes blinking up at him with curiosity and fear. Samuel knelt beside it, his heart full of tenderness and concern. He could hardly believe that such a wild animal was hiding in his barn. It felt like a scene from a storybook. "Where did you come from, little one?" he asked softly, unable to shake off the feeling of confusion. The barn was a safe haven for his animals, but this cub was clearly not meant to be here. Samuel scanned the area, searching for any signs of its mother or any clues that could explain this strange occurrence. The whimpering sound that had drawn him to the barn now seemed to echo in his ears as he looked around. There were no footprints or any signs of struggle, just piles of hay and the familiar smells of his farm. He couldn't help but wonder if there was a hidden story behind this little cub's arrival. As he stood up, Samuel's instincts kicked in. He needed to make sure the cub was safe. He took a few steps back, allowing it some space to explore its surroundings. The cub cautiously stepped forward, sniffing at the hay while glancing up at Samuel with wide eyes. That innocent gaze tugged at his heart even more. Suddenly, Samuel remembered something important. He had seen posters around town about a local wildlife rescue center seeking volunteers to help care for injured or orphaned animals. Could this tiny lion cub be part of that effort? But how could it have ended up so far from its natural habitat? Samuel's mind raced with questions. He decided to search around the barn for any clues about where the cub might have come from. As he moved past old tools and dusty boxes, he noticed something unusual near the back wall. A torn piece of fabric caught on a nail. It looked like it could have come from a larger animal, a hint that maybe a lioness had been nearby. Samuel bent down to inspect it closely and realized it had a faint scent that reminded him of wild grass and earth. With a growing sense of urgency, he made his way back to the cub, who was now playing with a loose strand of hay, batting it with its tiny paws. Samuel couldn't help but chuckle at its playful antics, but he also knew that this was no ordinary pet. The thought that it may have been separated from its mother filled him with concern. "All right, little one," he said gently, kneeling again beside the cub. "Let's see what we can do to help you." He reached out and gave its head a soft stroke. The cub responded by leaning into his touch. In that moment, Samuel felt an extraordinary bond forming between them, a connection that went beyond human and animal. He carefully picked up the cub again and cradled it in his arms as he stepped outside into the sunlight. The fresh air filled his lungs, But Samuel knew that fresh air alone wouldn't solve this mystery. He needed to understand what had happened to the cub's mother. As he walked across the yard towards his house, he noticed how quiet everything seemed. The gentle rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of birds felt oddly muted compared to his racing thoughts. What if its mother was out there somewhere, searching for her lost baby? This thought weighed heavily on him as he settled on the porch steps. Samuel sat down, still holding the cub close as he contemplated his next steps. He needed to find someone who could help him figure out what to do next. Someone with knowledge about wildlife and lion behavior. The local wildlife rescue center came to mind again, and soon enough, a plan began forming in his mind. Before making any calls or decisions, though, Samuel looked down at the tiny creature resting peacefully in his arms. The little lion cub had closed its eyes and seemed to be drifting off into slumber. A picture of innocence and vulnerability that stirred something deep within him. In that moment, he realized that saving this cub would not just be about finding its mother. It would be about ensuring both their futures. With resolve growing inside him, Samuel vowed to do everything in his power to protect this precious life and uncover the truth behind its sudden arrival in his barn. Little did he know that this journey would lead him into uncharted territory, where love for animals would be tested like never before. As Samuel sat on the porch with the lion cub cradled in his arms, he gazed down at its peaceful face. The tiny creature had drifted off to sleep, its gentle breathing a soothing sound that filled him with warmth. But as he looked at the cub, he knew that keeping it safe and healthy would require more than just love and kindness. He needed to take action. "All right, little one," he whispered softly, deciding it was time to figure out how to care for this unexpected guest. He carefully stood up, making sure not to wake the cub, and walked back inside his house. His mind raced with thoughts of what a lion cub might need. Samuel had never cared for such a wild animal before, but his instincts as a farmer kicked in. He had raised many animals over the years, and he felt determined to give this cub what it needed. First on his list was food. Samuel remembered seeing some information online about baby lions and their dietary needs. They relied heavily on their mother's milk in their early weeks of life. But since this little one was separated from its mother, he would have to find an alternative. He rummaged through his pantry and found some canned goat's milk that he had purchased for his goats during a particularly cold winter. With the can in hand, Samuel poured a small amount into a shallow dish. He then set it down in front of the cub as it began to stir awake. The cub sniffed curiously at the dish before tentatively dipping its tiny tongue into the milk. Samuel watched with delight as it lapped up the creamy liquid eagerly. "That's it. Drink up," he encouraged softly, feeling relieved that the cub was willing to eat and drink. As it finished its meal, Samuel couldn't help but smile. This was a good sign that it would survive if he could provide proper care. Next came finding a comfortable space for the cub to rest. Samuel knew that lions were naturally drawn to cozy spots where they could feel safe and secure. So he decided to create a little den for it right in his barn. He gathered some old blankets and hay, making sure everything was clean and soft. Once he had arranged a snug nest in one corner of the barn, he gently placed the cub inside after it finished drinking. It curled up immediately, nuzzling into the blankets with a contented sigh. Seeing the cub so relaxed brought relief to Samuel's heart. At least now it had somewhere warm and safe to sleep. While keeping watch over the little creature, Samuel took time each day to learn more about lion behavior through books and online resources. He discovered that socializing with humans could be beneficial for young animals like this cub, as long as interactions were kept gentle and positive. Encouraged by this knowledge, he began talking softly to the cub whenever they were together. As days passed by, Samuel developed routines around caring for his new friend. Each morning began with feeding time as soon as sunlight streamed into the barn. He made sure to keep fresh goat's milk ready for breakfast. He also mixed in some soft meat scraps from his farm animals when appropriate, since lions needed protein as they grew older. The bond between them deepened quickly. Every time Samuel entered the barn, the little lion's ears perked up in recognition of his voice. During playtime, Samuel would bring along toys like old socks or balls made of hay, the kind of simple things that encouraged natural curiosity and playful instincts within the cub. But caring for a lion wasn't without challenges. There were moments when uncertainty crept into Samuel's mind about whether or not he could truly raise such an exotic creature properly. One afternoon, while watching the cub chase after a piece of string on the floor, doubt began nibbling away at him. Was this really what was best for both of them? Yet each time those fears surfaced, they were washed away by thoughts of how much joy and laughter this little being brought into his life already. A gift wrapped in fur, with bright eyes, full of wonderment at everything around it. Samuel also knew that keeping the lion cub hidden from others wasn't sustainable forever. Eventually, people would notice something unusual happening on his farm. Sooner or later, rumors would spread about an actual lion living so close by. With mixed feelings swirling within him, excitement mingled with anxiety. He began considering contacting local wildlife officials or rescue organizations for guidance. For now, though, each moment spent nurturing this tiny creature became precious beyond measure. A journey enriched by love, where trust blossomed between them, amidst uncertainty about what lay ahead together. Through all these experiences, feeding times turned into bonding moments filled with laughter. The realization dawned on him. Caring for this little lion meant not just providing food or shelter, but creating an environment where it could thrive emotionally too. A place where both human heartbeats echoed gently alongside one another amidst fields under wide open skies, forever changing their lives together. As days turned into weeks, Samuel found himself increasingly fascinated by the lion cub and the mystery surrounding its origins. He had grown attached to the little creature, but uncertainty nagged at him like a persistent itch. Where had this cub come from? What had happened to its mother? Each time he looked into its bright eyes, he felt a wave of protective instinct wash over him. But he also knew that he couldn't keep it hidden forever. Determined to uncover the truth, Samuel decided it was time to seek help. He thought about his friends and neighbors who might have insights or connections to local wildlife experts. After finishing his morning chores one sunny day, he grabbed his phone and made a few calls. His first stop was to reach out to Clara, a friend who worked at the nearby wildlife rescue center. She had always been passionate about animals and often shared stories about her experiences caring for injured wildlife. "Hey, Clara, it's Samuel," he said when she picked up, trying to keep his voice steady despite his nerves. "I need your help with something unusual." "What's going on?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Samuel took a deep breath before revealing the unbelievable news. "I found a lion cub in my barn." There was a brief silence on the line before Clara responded. "A lion cub? That's incredible. Are you serious?" "Yes, I can't believe it myself," Samuel replied, feeling relieved that she didn't doubt him. He told her everything, the discovery, how he had been caring for the cub, and his growing concerns about its origins. Clara listened intently, her excitement mixed with concern. "You did the right thing by calling me, Samuel. Lion cubs are not meant to be kept as pets. We need to figure out where it came from and how we can help it." After their call ended, Clara promised to visit Samuel later that afternoon to assess the situation firsthand. As he hung up, Samuel felt a sense of hope swell within him. Perhaps Clara could provide the answers he desperately sought. While waiting for her arrival, Samuel busied himself in the barn with the cub, playing gently with it and keeping an eye on its health and happiness. He filled its dish with fresh goat's milk and watched as it eagerly drank while batting at a small ball made of straw that he had crafted earlier. When Clara finally arrived, she stepped into the barn with enthusiasm, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the cub. "Oh my goodness, it's even cuter in person," she exclaimed, crouching down to get a closer look. As they interacted with the cub together, Clara noticed something peculiar about its behavior. Though playful and curious, there was an underlying wariness in its movements that suggested it was not used to human interaction. "Samuel," Clara said thoughtfully, as she observed the cub closely. "This little one has likely been separated from its mother for quite some time." Her expression turned serious as she continued. "We need to start investigating where it might have come from. There's a chance its mother is still out there somewhere." Samuel nodded eagerly. That was exactly what he wanted to hear. They spent some time brainstorming ideas on how to gather more information about the cub's origins. Clara suggested reaching out to local authorities or shelters that might have received reports of missing lions or sightings of wild animals in unusual places. "Let's also put out some feelers among other farmers in the area," Clara added. "Someone might have seen something or heard rumors about wild animals nearby." Fueled by determination and hope, they began crafting posters detailing the cub's description and asking for any information regarding lost lionesses or unusual sightings in the region. Samuel shared stories about his farm's peaceful setting and how idyllic it would be for any wildlife needing refuge. With Clara's help, they distributed these posters around town and contacted local animal control agencies as well as wildlife experts who could assist them in their search. Each conversation led them closer to understanding what may have happened. Some people shared reports of a lioness that had escaped from a nearby sanctuary several weeks ago. As they pieced together bits of information like detectives unraveling a mystery, Samuel's heart raced with anticipation at the possibility of finding the cub's mother. With each lead they followed up on, whether it was visiting farms nearby or checking in with local wildlife organizations, Samuel felt more empowered and hopeful than ever about reuniting this little creature with its family. Days turned into nights, filled with endless conversations about lion behavior and habitats, while they considered all options available for helping this tiny cub find its way home. The bond between Samuel and Clara strengthened as they worked side by side toward one common goal: ensuring that both the lion cub's future and potentially its mother's would be safeguarded against uncertainty. Little did they know that their investigation would lead them down paths they never expected. Ones filled with adventure where courage would be tested amid emotional highs and lows as they sought not only answers, but also new beginnings for both creatures caught between wildness and home. After deciding to investigate the origins of the lion cub, Samuel found himself immersed in learning about lion behavior and the vital role of mothers for their young. Alongside Clara, he delved into extensive research, eager to better understand the needs of this exquisite creature that had unexpectedly entered his life. One warm afternoon, as they sat on the porch discussing their findings, Clara shared some fascinating facts about lion cubs. "Did you know that lionesses are incredibly attentive mothers?" she began, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "In the wild, they'll spend the first few months of a cub's life caring for it almost constantly. This is crucial for the cub's development." Samuel nodded, listening intently. He had begun to see this little cub not just as a pet, but as a creature deserving of a rich and full life in the wild. A lioness typically gives birth to a litter of 1 to 4 cubs, Clara continued. They are born blind and helpless, relying solely on their mother for warmth and nourishment. The bond between them during these early months is essential for survival. As Samuel absorbed this information, he realized how much this little cub must be missing its mother. While he had provided care and comfort in his barn, he couldn't replace what was naturally meant to be a connection with its lioness mother. Clara went on to explain how maternal care extends beyond just immediate needs like food and shelter. Lionesses teach their cubs how to hunt and communicate through various sounds and behaviors, she said. They also socialize with other pride members, which is important for learning group dynamics, a skill they'll rely on their entire lives. Samuel pictured the tiny cub playing alongside its siblings, learning from its mother's guidance. He could almost hear the soft, purring sounds that would comfort and encourage it while it practiced stalking and pouncing on small prey. Experiences that were vital for a lion's future success. The more Clara spoke about pride dynamics, the more it fascinated Samuel. Did you know that in a pride, it's usually the females that do the majority of hunting? She elaborated. While the males protect the territory, females work together to provide food for everyone in the group. This collaboration creates strong bonds among them. This community aspect particularly struck a chord with Samuel as he reflected on his own experiences with farm animals. Just as he nurtured bonds within his sanctuary between cows, sheep, goats, and chickens, lion prides exhibited similar social behaviors crucial to their survival. Eager to connect these pieces of knowledge while caring for the cub before him, Samuel decided they needed to start simulating some natural behaviors during playtime. He gathered some grass strands and crafted makeshift toys, a ball of hay here, some leaves there, and placed them around the barn. "Let's see if we can encourage its hunting instincts," he said excitedly, as they prepared for another playful session with their little friend. As they watched the cub chase after these toys and pounce on them with glee, laughter erupted from both Samuel and Clara. Gradually, they noticed an improvement in the cub's confidence. The way it had leaped forward after a ball or paw at a dangling piece of fabric from large plant branches was heartwarming. In addition to play, Clara suggested with inspiration, maybe we can try exposing it to different sounds so it can become acclimated to more than just our voices. Samuel agreed wholeheartedly, making sure the cub adjusted back into potentially wild circumstances felt increasingly important as days passed by. From then onwards, Samuel played recordings of bird calls softening at sunset or rustling leaves in springtime breezes during quiet days in the barn, while spending time doting lovingly over every aspect of the little cub's upbringing, enhancing bonding experiences beyond traditional caretaking. Each newfound interest turned learning into moments filled with joy. The moments where they envisioned visions of lions roaming freely across endless plains mingled seamlessly with reality's present challenges. Safeguarding against uncertainty surrounding this particular creature's upbringing, harmonized by nature's beautiful complexities awaiting discovery ahead. Guided by Clara's expertise, coupled with newfound understanding derived from days spent nurturing this innocent heart grew, shaping not just an appreciation towards wildlife, but reshaping Samuel's perspectives too. Nurturing awareness towards resilient bonds formed between animals, resiliently demonstrating values embodied throughout encounters rich in trust, woven intricately alongside respect, guiding all life forms, endless possibilities everywhere. One dared wander, exploring untamed wonders, still waiting quietly nearby, across fields lined under vibrant skies, celebrating existence authentically lived. Oftentimes, when resting amidst those warm afternoons, watching lioness teaching her offspring how indeed life unfolds, skills required balancing powers, created both through intertwining worlds, captivated him, revealing all truly united through love, entangled existing communities stretching far beyond mere boundaries, each uniquely cherished, unconditionally tethered, empathically, eternally woven. Forever within heartbeats, echoing joy. Boundless discoveries, enriching paths, traveled deeply, understood always, anchored lovingly together. Weaving destinies amidst adventure, newly unfolding above every horizon, awaiting yet untouched. After spending weeks caring for the lion cub and learning about its behavior, Samuel and Clara felt ready to take the next step in their journey. Searching for the cub's mother. They believed that finding the lioness would not only provide closure, but was also crucial for the cub's well-being, ensuring it could return to its natural home and family. One bright morning, Samuel awoke with a sense of purpose. He prepared a quick breakfast, his mind buzzing with plans and possibilities. After wolfing down his meal, he called Clara to discuss their next steps. "Let's meet at the barn," he said, excitement bubbling in his voice. "I think we should first talk to the local wildlife agency." Clara agreed enthusiastically, recognizing that involving professionals would provide them with vital information and resources. By mid-morning, they convened at the barn, where the cub played happily with its makeshift toys. Clara gently lifted the cub into her arms before they headed out, creating a safe and comforting atmosphere for their little friend. Arriving at the Wildlife Agency's office felt like stepping into a new world for Samuel. The walls were adorned with posters showcasing local wildlife and conservation efforts. As they approached the front desk, a friendly woman greeted them with an inquisitive smile. "How can I help you today?" Clearing his throat, Samuel explained their situation, the discovery of the lion cub in his barn and their desire to find its mother. As he spoke, he noticed that her expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "Lions are not native to our area, so it's important we act quickly," she replied. "Let me connect you to our wildlife rescue team." Within moments, a knowledgeable man named Derek joined them. He had an air of authority mixed with a gentle demeanor that put Samuel at ease. "I've heard about your situation," he said after introducing himself. "We'll need as much information as possible to begin our search. There have been reports of a lioness seen escaping from a sanctuary nearby a few weeks ago." Hope sparked in Samuel's eyes as Derek spoke. This was exactly the lead they needed. "Can you help us investigate what's happening?" he asked eagerly. "Absolutely," Derek replied, gesturing for them to follow him into a small conference room filled with maps and photos of local wildlife. Over the next hour, they pored over maps highlighting potential locations where the lioness might be hiding, identifying areas neighboring their farm. Lions tend to roam during the cooler hours of early morning or late evening, Derek explained, while pointing out particular dense wooded areas near nearby hills. "If we can set up cameras or perhaps organize a search party at these locations during these times, our chances of finding her increase significantly." Samuel felt buoyed by Derek's confidence and organization. It made the daunting task ahead feel achievable. After gathering all the necessary information, including descriptions of the lioness that had been reported missing and potential sightings from locals, they returned to their farm, buzzing with energy and anticipation. With Clara by his side, Samuel realized how much this journey transcended simply finding the cub's mother. It was about protecting an entire family lost in this vast world. Over the following days, they worked tirelessly alongside Derek and volunteers from the Wildlife Agency. They set up camera traps in key areas identified on the maps while spreading word throughout neighboring towns about their search efforts. Samuel hung flyers everywhere he could, from community bulletin boards to local shops, every time heartened by each shared story that raised hope. Some neighbors expressed concern about wandering lions, while others were fascinated, eager to share tales of their own animal encounters or strange sounds they'd heard at night. With every conversation, Samuel felt more connected to his community. People came together in support of a common goal: to find this lioness and bring her home. As dusk fell one evening, after long hours spent meticulously checking camera traps and reviewing footage with Clara, Samuel received an unexpected call from an excited neighbor named Mrs. Hargrove, who lived several miles away. "Samuel, you won't believe what I just saw. A lioness was wandering near my property earlier today." Her voice trembled with disbelief. His heart raced as he listened intently. "Do you think she could be the one?" he asked eagerly. "I'm not sure," she continued hesitantly, "but it looked like she was searching for something." Gathering a small group of volunteers, including Clara, Derek, and several enthusiastic neighbors, they quickly mobilized to follow up on Mrs. Hargrove's sighting while preparing for another adventure ahead. Driven by determination under a starlit sky, they ventured out into the wilds near Mrs. Hargrove's house, with each pair of eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of their elusive target. The moment they had all been waiting for hung palpably in the air around them as anticipation filled every heartbeat, leading them closer still. The air was thick with anticipation as Samuel, Clara, and their group of volunteers gathered near Mrs. Hargrove's house later that evening. They had all heard the news of a lioness sighting, and excitement buzzed in the air. Under the starlit sky, they exchanged whispers about the possibility of finally finding the cub's mother. They moved cautiously through the brush, keeping their voices low and shining their flashlights into the shadows. Samuel could almost feel the beating of his heart echoing in his ears as they drew closer to the area where Mrs. Hargrove had seen the lioness. He felt a mix of hope and anxiety squeezing his chest. The weight of their quest pressed down upon him. After searching for what felt like an eternity, Clara's flashlight beam suddenly illuminated a large shape lounging near a thicket, motionless. Anticipation surged through the group as they approached, their hearts racing at the thought that they might finally be close to reuniting the cub with its mother. But just as they began to get excited, they overheard a somber conversation drifting from behind some trees. Samuel exchanged worried glances with Clara before they crept closer to listen. "It's just so sad," a soft voice said, tinged with sorrow. "She was captured last week while wandering too close to town, and now she's being held at the wildlife sanctuary for safety." Samuel's heart sank as he processed the words. The group member continued. "They're checking on her health before deciding how best to release her back into the wild." "Wait, what did you say about her being captured?" Samuel interjected impulsively, stepping out from behind the bushes. The others followed suit, forming an inquisitive line behind him. A man turned around, surprised to see Samuel and the group emerging from the shadows. "Oh, I didn't see you there," he exclaimed before quickly explaining what he had heard. "I just came from the wildlife agency discussing the lioness situation. There was an incident last week where they had to capture her." He paused as concern washed over his face. It was necessary to protect her and ensure she didn't wander into dangerous areas again. The ramifications of this revelation hit Samuel hard. The cub's mother was alive, and she was nearby. But she was also trapped away from her young, away from what was instinctively meant to be. A mixture of frustration, sadness, and a hint of relief surged through him. Relief that she was safe, but frustration that she wasn't with her cub. Samuel took a deep breath before speaking again, grappling with how to express what he felt. "So, she's actually at the wildlife sanctuary?" he asked with a hopeful shake in his voice. "Yes, they have her in recovery," the man confirmed, still sensing Samuel's intense curiosity about this new information. Clara's face brightened momentarily at this breakthrough, but quickly shifted to concern as Samuel's expression darkened. "We have to get her back to her cub," she urged confidently. "If we can get to the sanctuary and explain the situation, maybe we can find a way to reunite them legally." As Samuel contemplated Clara's suggestion, doubts filled his mind. There were regulations and procedures in place regarding wild animals for a reason. They were implemented to protect both species and citizens alike. But this was different. This was family. "No matter what it takes," he said decisively, a newfound determination rising within him. "That cub needs its mother. It's gone through enough already. We can't let it be separated any longer." The group rallied behind him, energizing Samuel as he shared his plan to head to the sanctuary immediately. Clara excitedly gathered everyone around, while issuing reminders about their roles in approaching sanctuary officials with respect and clarity, along with unwavering focus on the cub's well-being. They quickly organized their carpool after preparing equipment and notes summarizing their findings and efforts over the past few weeks. Fueled by newfound conviction, they hit the road toward the wildlife sanctuary under an expansive canopy of stars shimmering above them. When Samuel arrived at the sanctuary, his heart raced with anticipation. A mingling of worry and hope twined tightly together, like roots gripping sunlit earth. He could scarcely contain his excitement as they parked and stepped onto soft gravel paths leading toward dimly lit buildings. Approaching the main office, Samuel glanced around expectantly and caught sight of large enclosures showcasing various local wildlife being rehabilitated. Their careless wandering along these paths felt more purposeful now, with each step toward transparency surrounding this journey. A chance crafted by love, unconditionally guiding them forward into uncertain yet hopeful futures awaiting beyond these walls. As they entered the lobby of the animal sanctuary, Samuel took one last breath before opening up about everything. The little lion cub resting peacefully at home on his farm, the bond forged amid shared moments spent nurturing innocence, celebrating connections rooted firmly enduring. Through moments held dear, intertwined, intricately waiting, simply for love, shared openly uniting lost hearts. With each heartbeat echoing against these walls, mindful of every precious creature striving toward harmonious destinies anchored firmly together. Two hearts yearning amidst uncertainties, awaiting joyful reunions ahead, upon horizons, glimmers waiting patiently beneath star-studded skies, vast enough containing dreams, tethered lovingly within those shared embraces, waiting eagerly, forever remembered. As Samuel stood in the lobby of the wildlife sanctuary, his heart raced with a whirlwind of emotions. He had come so far to reunite the lion cub with its mother, and yet a deep sense of unease washed over him. Holding the tiny cub close to his chest, he gazed into its innocent eyes, feeling the warmth of their bond. It was hard to believe that just weeks ago, this little creature had wandered into his life, filling his days with joy and laughter. Yet now, standing at this crossroads, Samuel faced an emotional dilemma that weighed heavily on him. He knew that returning the cub to its mother was the right thing to do for its future. It belonged with her, where it could learn how to be a lion. But the thought of giving up this precious companion tugged at his heartstrings. "Samuel," Clara said softly beside him, sensing his internal struggle. "This is what needs to happen. The cub has a better chance at survival with its mother. You've done an incredible job caring for it, but nothing can replace that bond." He nodded slowly, knowing she was right. The cub needed to learn from its mother how to hunt, socialize, and thrive in the wild, skills that were crucial for any lion's survival. Yet the fear of losing the cub loomed over him like a dark cloud. Samuel couldn't help but think about the joy it brought him each day, how it had become a part of his daily routine and family. The playful pounces and soft purring sounds were memories he cherished deeply. "What if she doesn't recognize her?" Samuel whispered, almost as if afraid to voice the thought out loud. "What if the reunion doesn't go as we hope?" Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, grounding him in that moment. "Animals have strong instincts, Samuel. They can sense each other's presence and feelings. I believe when they see each other again, they'll know they belong together." Despite her comforting words, doubt lingered in Samuel's mind, like a shadow refusing to fade away. He imagined the scene, the lioness meeting her cub again, after being separated. What if there was hesitation? What if the lioness had changed during her time away? Would she accept her cub back after all this time? As he pondered these questions, Samuel felt a knot tightening in his stomach. He envisioned returning home without the cub, a quiet farm that would feel far too empty without its playful presence. The barn would echo with silence instead of laughter. Every corner would remind him of what he had lost. But then he caught sight of the cub as it playfully batted at a loose thread on his shirt, oblivious to his turmoil. In that moment, he saw not just the bond they shared, but also the reality of what was best for this little life. It deserved to flourish in its natural environment, not confined to a cozy barn filled with love, but lacking the wildness it needed to thrive. "Okay," Samuel finally said, taking a deep breath as clarity began to wash over him like a gentle wave. "You're right. This little one belongs with its mother." Determination replaced his uncertainty as he embraced the reality before him. Clara smiled encouragingly as other volunteers gathered around them, unaware of the emotional battle Samuel had just fought within himself. "We'll be there for both of them," Clara assured him as they prepared to speak with sanctuary officials about arranging the reunion. As they walked towards the main office area to discuss their plans further, Samuel felt a renewed sense of purpose surge through him. He might be giving up his daily companion, a piece of his heart, but he would be gaining so much more by allowing this family to reunite. Together they met with Derek and various sanctuary staff members who were eager to help facilitate this reunion. They discussed logistics and procedures surrounding how it would happen, while keeping the well-being of both animals as a priority. Hours passed as excitement filled the air. Samuel could feel hope blooming once again deep within him. With every detail discussed and every step taken toward reuniting them, he knew that it was a journey worth embarking upon, even if it meant saying goodbye. Finally came the moment they had been waiting for. The chance to witness this incredible reunion unfold before their eyes. As they stood outside near the enclosures where both mother and cub awaited their fates, intertwined together amidst wild grasses swaying under full sun rays gleaming down above them. There was nothing left but belief rooted strongly within hearts, longing for connection restored anew. In those moments leading up towards culmination ahead, the weight of decisions transformed into trust, guiding toward brighter tomorrows awaited patiently beneath endless skies, once filled only by uncertainty, now bursting forth through possibilities shared amongst lives, dancing joyously reunited forevermore. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, casting golden rays across the wildlife sanctuary, Samuel stood outside the main enclosure, his heart pounding with anticipation. The moment he had been waiting for had finally arrived, the reunion of the lion cub with its mother. Clara stood beside him, her expression a mix of excitement and reassurance as they prepared for this emotional milestone. Derek, the sanctuary staff member who had been guiding them through the process, approached with a gentle smile. "We're ready to bring her out now," he said, motioning for them to follow him. Samuel felt a surge of hope and anxiety as they walked toward a secure area where the mother lioness was being held. The anticipation was palpable in the air as they reached a gate. Samuel could see the lioness pacing inside her enclosure, her powerful body moving with grace and intent. He caught a glimpse of her eyes, intelligent and filled with emotion. In that moment, he realized how much he had come to care for both the cub and its mother, and how vital their reunion would be for both of them. "Remember," Derek said softly, "allow them to take their time to reconnect. We'll observe from a distance to ensure everything goes smoothly." Samuel nodded, heart racing as they prepared to open the gate. Clara squeezed his hand reassuringly, grounding him in that moment. As Derek unlatched the gate, a rush of air filled the space, amplifying the anticipation. With a gentle push, the gate swung open, and the lioness stepped forward into the sunlight, stretching her limbs as if awakening from a long slumber. She paused for a moment, taking in her surroundings before her gaze landed on Samuel and Clara. Then, as if sensing something familiar in the air, she turned her focus towards the area where Samuel had brought the cub. "Bring her out," Clara whispered excitedly as she pointed toward the cub who was nestled in Samuel's arms, its little head peeking out curiously. With shaky hands, Samuel lowered the cub to his chest and slowly stepped forward. The cub wriggled slightly in his hold, sensing the change in atmosphere and looking towards the lioness with wide eyes. Samuel took a deep breath as he knelt down, allowing the cub to slide into the grass gently. As soon as its paws touched the ground, the cub scampered forward, instinctively drawn to its mother. The lioness's expression shifted from curiosity to recognition as she stepped closer. Samuel's heart raced. He could hardly believe this moment was finally happening. The cub hesitated at first, but soon bounded towards its mother with an eagerness that filled Samuel with hope. The lioness crouched low to the ground, her body language showing both caution and excitement as she watched her offspring approach. Time seemed to stand still as Samuel held his breath, praying for a joyous reunion. When they were close enough, the cub let out a soft whimper that echoed through the enclosure, a sound of longing and connection. In response, the lioness reached out with a gentle paw and nuzzled her cub's cheek affectionately. It was an instinctive recognition that seemed to bridge all gaps of time spent apart. Samuel's eyes filled with tears as he watched this tender moment unfold before him. The bond between mother and cub was unmistakable. It was as if no time had passed at all. The cub responded by rubbing its head against its mother's side, purring softly, the same sound that once filled Samuel's barn with warmth and comfort. Clara stood beside him, equally moved by the scene playing out before them. "Look at that," she whispered in awe. "They know each other." The lioness began grooming her cub with loving strokes of her tongue while it playfully rolled around at her feet. The joy radiating from their reunion was contagious. Even Derek smiled warmly at their connection. As moments turned into minutes, Samuel felt a profound sense of relief wash over him. He now understood that this was not just about returning a wild animal to its family. It was about restoring balance and allowing nature to take its course. The love between these two creatures was palpable, a reminder that family bonds transcend everything else. After several minutes of watching them interact, Derek gently suggested it was time to step back further, so that they could have their space. "Let's give them time to settle in together," he advised gently. Samuel nodded reluctantly, but knew it was for the best. As he took one last look at the pair, their playful antics and tender moments, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for having been part of this journey. As they walked away toward a shaded area nearby where they could still observe without intruding too much on their newfound family reunion, Clara leaned over and whispered softly in his ear, "You did something amazing today, Samuel." He smiled through his tears, understanding that while he had let go of one part of his life, his cherished companion, the joy of witnessing this reunion filled him with an indescribable warmth. It reminded him of nature's incredible cycles, how life continues to weave connections amid challenges faced along each journey taken. In those moments under the sun-drenched sky, surrounded by vibrant wildlife sounds echoing harmoniously all around, the realization sunk deeply rooted within him. Love always finds its way back home, whether through emotional bonds forged on farms or amidst wild plains, untamed waiting patiently beneath open skies, brimming with endless possibilities. As Samuel stood quietly at the edge of the wildlife sanctuary, watching the enchanting reunion of the lion cub and its mother unfold, a wave of reflection washed over him. The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm hues across the landscape as he took in the beautiful scene before him. The tender nuzzles and playful banter between the two lions highlighted something profound that had grown within him throughout this journey: a deep respect for nature and the responsibility that came with it. In that moment, he realized how interconnected everything truly was. Watching the lioness care for her cub reinforced his understanding that every creature plays an important role in the greater tapestry of life. Just as he nurtured his farm animals with care and attention, so too did wild animals depend on their environments and families to thrive. Nature was not just a backdrop to existence. It was a living entity, teeming with relationships and dependencies essential for survival. Samuel felt a sense of responsibility swell within him, not just for the creatures on his own farm, but for all wildlife in general. He thought about how human actions influenced habitats, often endangering animals like this proud lioness who had faced danger from territorial disputes or encroaching human development. How many others are out there? He wondered quietly to himself, thinking about those wild animals struggling to navigate a world designed without their needs in mind. His experiences had brought him closer to these realities. His heart grew heavy with awareness of how easily life could change due to human interference. With every encounter he had, whether it was watching the cub's playful antics or witnessing the lioness's protective instincts, he felt compelled to advocate for wildlife conservation efforts, becoming a voice for those who could not speak for themselves. Samuel turned to Clara, who shared his sentiments as she too observed the scene beside him. Her passionate work at the Wildlife Rescue Center opened his eyes to the impact one person could have if they chose to act with purpose and compassion. Together, they had forged a partnership built upon shared goals. Educating others about responsible stewardship of natural habitats would not only benefit wildlife, but also connect communities through empathy and understanding. "Do you think we can do more?" Samuel asked Clara thoughtfully, considering their roles in shaping future conversations about protecting wildlife. "Absolutely," she replied passionately. "Every little act counts. We can engage our community, host workshops about coexistence with wildlife, and spread awareness about habitat preservation." Clara's enthusiasm ignited a determination within Samuel to take meaningful action, not just for himself or for this magnificent pair, but for all creatures that lived amid precarious circumstances. As they discussed plans for organizing educational outreach programs tailored toward local schools and community groups, Samuel felt empowered by their collective vision. Perhaps they could foster understanding among people who lived nearby farms, helping them see that protecting habitats would also improve their own livelihoods in the long run. By promoting biodiversity, they could cultivate healthy ecosystems where both humans and wildlife thrived hand in hand, with each idea shared between them, each thought sparked by their previous encounters. It became clear that this journey went beyond simply reuniting a mother with her cub. It was about advancing knowledge rooted deeply within moral responsibilities held toward animal welfare everywhere. As sunlight began its descent behind rolling hills painted gold with evening light, Samuel promised himself he would dedicate time toward advocating these ideals throughout his lifetime. A commitment not limited to caring solely for farm inhabitants, but embracing broader horizons extending well beyond any boundaries drawn around property lines. With renewed purpose coursing through him like warm energy flowing across fields amidst productive lives, lived harmoniously below wide-open skies above. A commitment sprang from witnessing enough love radiate between family connections. The change initiated could generate ripples leading everyone towards awareness bound up within futures, yet imagine decidedly evolve ingeniously along vibrant pathways, stretching onward across ages, unfolding ahead together, beautifully intertwined. He breathed in deeply while watching mother and cub exploring their surroundings as they began creating new memories under ancient trees, once again nestled safely within nature's embrace. Symbols encapsulated forever, serving shared emotions captured from worlds interconnected, echoing endlessly throughout time. Hereafter, awaiting patiently ready illuminating pathways ahead toward promising futures, blossoming infinitely bright, embracing every heartbeat, filled uniquely celebrating moments fully, and cementing legacies wrapped tightly around responsibilities taken upon discovering endlessly worthy causes dedicated towards forging stewardship within each moment. Lived through kindness, guiding endless possibilities crafted together forevermore.